Friendship joins me now from Washington, D.C. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for joining us. Look, there's no easy way to paint this. I mean, yes, there was the Austrian result yesterday, but last night's vote in Italy was a resounding defeat for those for those in Europe of the establishment point of view, wasn't it?
Thank you, Richard, for having me. Let me start by telling you the referendum in Italy, the outcome of the referendum in Italy was not a no to Europe. It had, as you very correctly said, to do with domestic political developments. The problem is that all these referenda that have become very fashionable in Europe give food and fuel the reaction of populists. And unfortunately, populism, all along with nationalism, are gaining ground, and it is detrimental to the European cause. The real threat does not come from the reaction of the people, but from the ones who exploit the referenda in order to promote their anti-European ideas. And me as a European, I can tell you, I cannot imagine my generation to be the one that will be held accountable in the future for the destruction of Europe.
But you would clearly, surely, Commissioner, say that it can't be business as usual, that the Commission and the institutions of the EU cannot just majestically move on as if none of this was happening.
Of course. And we do not intend to remain inactive, idle in front of this situation. Because, as I said before, right now, given all these developments, the European project in general is in doubt, is in danger. And you mentioned some names before. I go beyond names because all countries have their domestic political issues to tackle with. But for us, it is very important, and it is on the top of our priorities of how to safeguard and uphold Europe. That's why President Juncker, from the very first moment, he said that this commission is a political commission and ready to address all these issues. So what is the next step that we have to follow? First of all, is to sensitize the European public opinion about the danger of risking to see the European project collapsing. Richard, we belong to a generation, and let me be frank with you, that we enjoy freedom, democracy, and stability for the last 60 years. We were given, we are granted this gift from history, and we have to do our best in order to maintain it and reinforce it in the future. Don't take it for granted. I'm not addressing to you, but to the ones who are listening to us right now.
But in that case, that raises questions of countries like Hungary, where there are legitimate concerns about the rule of law, changes, for example, in Poland, where there are also some legitimate concerns, for example, about changes to press freedoms. How does Europe respond to those challenges where right-wing nationalism is being whipped up?
You said it right now. This far right-wing nationalist, by articulating their populist verb, they are confronting and they are against the basic European values. Europe today stands on a system of principles and values. So this is the problem that we are confronted with nowadays. And leadership of these countries, I don't want to get deeper in their domestic affairs, but I will tell you something very simple. Do you think it is politically responsible to transfer the responsibility of making a decision on a big issue like migration, for instance, or security, to the shoulders of the people through a referendum? Why are you elected? You are elected in order to implement your policy and be judged at the end of that.
Nobody was saying that about Hungary at the time of the referendum. There was nobody in Europe questioning why Orban was allowing the referendum to take place and then trying to get a constitutional reform once he failed.
Richard, the European Union cannot interfere in the domestic political developments and affairs of every country. We show respect what their citizens decide. The problem is domestic, but at the same time is becoming European because, as I said at the beginning, it is exploited by populists. And populists right now undermine the European project. They are the responsible for the vanishing of the European
Okay.
idea. Yes, we are confronted with problems, economic crisis, social crisis. Yes, Europe has taken the lead. We move forward, but we want to convince their governments and the leadership of Europe to be fully aligned with the European policy. It's not an easy thing. I'm in Washington right now, Richard, and you know the difference between the United States and Europe. Europe is not a federal system.
Yet,
you very correctly said. And this should be our target in the future, at least to adopt federal functions in specific domains and fields.
Commissioner, we could talk for much longer. Next time you're in New York, I insist, Commissioner, you come and join me here so we can talk.
I promise I will be with you because you are my favorites.
Very kind. Commissioner joining me.
Thank you for having me.
DC.